For those of you who are doing in-office 3D printing of your IDB trays, we have made some improvements here in step 8. You'll see some tools over here. Some of these were already here. We've just tried to improve them, make them faster and more consistent. It's still not 100%, so you, quite frankly, sometimes might have to send trays to us to correct, but you should see some improvements. So let's just quickly go over these improvements. As a quick overview, as you may or may not know, under Show Hide you can turn on or off your brackets, or you can use the keyboard shortcut key B. The letter B will turn those brackets on or off. And then, as you may know, you can turn on the bracket names. This is particularly useful if you when you go to load your brackets, and if you mixed and matched different bracket types or different manufacturers, it's good to be able to see those names of the brackets when you're loading, or your staff when they're loading. So of course there's that. And then the section tool we had before. So yeah, you can, we definitely recommend you want to section your trays. It's a lot easier to put them on, and particularly it's easier to get them off once you've bonded those trays. So yeah, there's that cut there. So we do have an option there to just go ahead and cut it in half between the centrals. But like I said, we recommend probably doing it at least in thirds, either between the 3s and the 4s, or maybe even the 4s and the 5s. And then the other tool we have here that we've tried to improve is the trim tool. If this was a lower arch and you're using like a NOLA dry system, and you want to kind of, you don't want the tray to interfere with the tongue cover. So we've made it so that you can do these little trim areas and cut those little sections out. It's just a little bit easier to get the trays in and out on the lower arch if you've got that tray guard on the NOLA dry system. And then give that a second. There we go. If it for some reason it doesn't fill in that area, if you come under lasso, there is this fill hole tool that does not do near as clean a job as you see here, but it can fill that. If you have any problems, like I said, you can, oops, down here you can send that to us, and we'll get that corrected for you and back to you, I believe, within 24 hours. Let's see. Oh, let's see. Let's come back to the emboss tool. So this one's interesting. We've made some improvements here where you can just use the patient's name, and if you click emboss each section, it'll put it on there. Or you can click that off and you can name it whatever you want. Like here I put upper right, and then what you would do, upper right, and then maybe put the patient's initials or their first name, whatever you want to do. But typically you can just come on here and you can basically draw a box as to where you want that name to show up. So we'll put a box right there, and it's a little slow embossing, sometimes quicker than other. It kind of depends on how smooth the surface is, and you can also see it's not perfect. It depends on how bubbly the surface is. So if you can get a nice flat surface as best you can, that will work. The previous model, or the previous tray I had on the screen, I chose to have a flat base. There's pros and cons of that. The pro is it's just a lot easier to 3D print your tray if you have a flat base. The downside is it can make it a little bit thick, particularly if you have a significant curve of SPI. You're going to have it pretty thick on those back 7s. So there are pros and cons, and we can go into more details with you. But I wanted to show you this tray where I did not do a flat base, and then show you the embossing tool as well. And let's just say, Tim S. So you can do it here. Let's see how this turns out. Give that a second. And there we go. So you can see there, it kind of, if there's a really high lump or hump, then it doesn't perfectly get it. But you would be able to read this. And particularly when you print this, if you put this up to the light, you'll read it. If you're kind of looking down, it's a lot harder to read. So anyway, that's everything we have new in the step 8 when you make your trays.